Hello everyone, my name is Kayla. I'm in Miss Powell's 7th period class, and my essay form is narrative. Now, out of all the forms of writing, narratives are the most creative and have the potential to be the most personal. They range from short stories to full novels to poems and even memoirs or nonfiction essays. This form of writing allows for the most leeway, but nevertheless, just like other types of writing, narratives have a format that should be followed in order to produce the best results. Similarly to baking a cake, writing a narrative requires a few key ingredients that you must have in order to complete the finished product. Probably the most critical element of a narrative is the plot. A plot is what brings all the dialogue, events, characters, and description together. In the case of making a cake, plot would be the flour. Similarly to a plot, flour is the basis of the cake, and without it, the egg, sugar, and butter alone would not be able to create the full cake. It can be considered the backbone. Characters and characterization should be considered next when writing a narrative. Who will be the antagonist, the protagonist? How will you portray the characters in your work? In cake baking, eggs would be the equivalent to this. They are very important, but not all cakes, like vegan creations, have them. Equivalently, some narratives, like poems or essays, do not have actual characters, but for other types, such as books and plays that call for characters, they are a crucial ingredient. Next would be setting. A narrative could be drastically altered depending on when or where it is placed. Most authors introduce the setting early on, but incorporate it into the plot. It's not best to explain every detail about where your story is taking place, or it will become overpowering and less captivating. In baking a cake, sugar would be the equivalent. Too much sugar will cause the sweetness to become overpowering. The next ingredient in a narrative would be the conflict. This is the main problem or problems that drive the plot. Specifically, there are two types of conflict, internal and external. In cake baking, butter or margarine would equal conflict. In regards to both, you must be careful not to add too little or too much. No conflict means your characters would have nothing to fight against, and no butter means the cake will not bake correctly. Too much conflict leaves no room for other plot developments, while too much butter makes a greasy cake. Second to last, point of view. Before embarking on a narrative, you must decide which point of view to write in. There are three main types: first, second, and third person. Third person can be broken down into subcategories: limited, multiple, and omniscient. Usually one type of point of view will fit best for the type of narrative you are writing. For example, memoirs are always in first person, while it is popular for books to be in third. When making a cake, liquid can be related to point of view. There are different types that you can use, such as water, almond milk, or cow milk, but generally one type works best depending on what you are baking. The last component of a narrative is the atmosphere. It is the mood or tone that is established in a work. It can be created through word choice and pacing of your writing. Just as all the other ingredients of a narrative, it is very important and not to be neglected, but it is not as obvious or prevalent as the others. It works subtly throughout the plot, oftentimes dictating a reader's feelings toward the work. In baking a cake, baking powder is similar to atmosphere in that it is not a main ingredient and can't be tasted, but it must be included for the cake to be whole. Like atmosphere, it works behind the scenes. All 6 of these components, when applied correctly, will be combined to create a whole and well-balanced narrative. All 6 of the ingredients combine to make a good tasting cake. No ingredient is less crucial than the other, but they all work in different ways. The term narrative can be broken down into several subcategories: whole novels and short stories, essays and poems, plays and biographies. And there you have the finished cake.